the ideas that we were working with when we put together our proposal for what has come to be known as a Qstep Center. All of us were very much focused on the idea that quantitative data analysis was part of the disciplines that we brought together. So as academics, we wouldn't be serving our disciplines if we didn't integrate data analysis into our substantive modules. And that's one of the approaches that we wanted to take in developing our Qstep Center. So how are we going to do this, and how are we going to deliver it? One is through the idea of subject-relevant data in the modules. We would make the modules more meaningful for the students, and the subjects more meaningful, and the data analysis more meaningful by integrating data analysis into it. So we use subject-relevant data, and one of the examples of the modules that we came up with is explaining war and peace, where in that module we would be using the correlates of war data set, or the armed conflict database, or replication data set. So of the articles that they were reading, we would take the data sets. And this is an example from an article by Kim Benoit, which is relevant to the subject, where the data are available. Here, this is not how the graph appeared in the actual publication, it's my rendition of it. But that is an example of what we would be using in the module and that the students would be using in the practical lab sessions that will be set up for them. And with those practical lab sessions, they would work on the data, and there would be assessments that would be linked to the labs and then linked to the subject matter. And our hope in doing this was that we would create politics, international relations, sociology, criminology graduates who had the following skills. And those are the subject areas in which we have BSc programs that deliver this integrated data analysis. What we wanted to do was to create students who thought creatively and critically with the data. It's not a maths or stats degree that we're delivering, it's a substantive degree in international relations, but we want the students, as I said, as part of the discipline, to think creatively. We also wanted them to be able to manage big and small data. We know that big data is very much part of what the rhetoric is now about data analysis and data science, but there's lots of small data out there, small social science data that they need to work with. Also, we wanted them to be able to tell stories with the data. So to be able to present the data and link it back to research questions that were relevant to the subject. So these stories that they would tell would be relevant to their topic. We also wanted them to take away skills that taught them how to use industry standard software such as SPSS or Excel or Stata. The employers that we're working with for work placement say SPSS, but we think maybe R or something else might be more appropriate. Now, in terms of how we link this to the objectives or the intended learning outcomes for the BSc programs that we put together, we wanted them to focus on things like data literacy, which Jackie has already mentioned. We think this is important for the students that we're producing, that they know how to work with the data, they know how to evaluate data, they know how to evaluate the sources of the data and how the data were created. They should also be able to explore the data. We are focusing on data visualization, but that's not all of it. It's also about looking at patterns in the data, looking at relationships between important concepts. We also think that data communication is another important element, and this is linked to the idea of storytelling. They should understand the principles of how they report data analyses and the reports of their analyses and do this effectively. I think it's also important in terms of data analysis that they understand the principles of good research design. So they understand how to collect the data, how to make observations, what the difference is between experimental and observational settings, and how and when to draw causal inferences. How will we support the students in doing this? One of the ways that we are doing this is through a stats support desk dedicated to helping them with their quantitative data analysis question. Also, we have a consultant from ICPSR in the US who can help us construct the subject-relevant data sets. We are also putting together a series of workshops on specific topics that are generated by the students, also by staff. Throughout the year, there will be a work up to 10 workshops. We also have a series of work placements set out for the students with TNS, BMRB, for example, ComRes, Devon Fire and Rescue, and res. So a mix of social research agencies. So that's what we're doing in terms of integrating data analysis into our subject